I had a very interesting job a long time ago, and I knew I didn't want that job for a long time, and that job took me to Iowa and Points West hauling livestock. And there was a commercial on the radio always that said, give the Army 2 years of your life, and we'll give you money for college. And over a long, cold winter, that started sounding pretty good. So one day I just walked in and said, I am ready to go. And I went, and I had a 5-year plan, go to the Army 2 years, go to school 2 years, and get a job. And it worked out. I enlisted, did basic training at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, did my AIT at Fort Lee, Virginia, and then they sent me to West Berlin, Germany. Actually got over to Frankfurt, and they landed, and they saw I graduated #1 out of my basic training company, and they said, you're going to Berlin. So I really didn't have a choice, and they put me in the 3rd of the 5th Infantry. And there we stood toe-to-toe with the Russians from our side of the wall, and then the city of Berlin was a lot of fun. It was a vibrant, neon European city, and then across the wall, it was dark and gray. And honestly, the people walked around with a general scowl on their face, and well earned, because it was meager, and it was interesting to see I walked in communism, and so I know everything we did to fight it was the right thing to do.
Did you just wander freely, east and west, really?
You had to get paperwork, but you could cross. But you had to be in uniform. If you were in uniform and you crossed at Checkpoint Charlie, they'd check you. You had to go into the PAC office and get a permit or whatever, permission, so that your commander and the Army knew that you were over there. And then you had to come back that night. So you had limits, but yeah, you could, anytime you wanted, you could get a pass to go over to the east. Stuff was cheap, but it was cheap. The shelves were bare. Often. We went at Christmas time, it was probably early December, and there was nothing. We went into the biggest department store, like the East German Macy's, and it was empty. There was nothing to buy. It was weird. It was surreal.
You said that the East Germans would occasionally talk to you in private. Did they tell you how unhappy they were and how much they hoped that the wall would come down?
Oh yeah, sure. We went over one time as a group. Our whole section went over. So we were in an Army bus, and so we went through the checkpoint, and we actually got a East German to get on the bus with us, and he showed us around and showed us places we could go that would cater to Americans, and this is where we found some of the nice restaurants and some of the bars that would handle us. And it was funny, at the end of the night, we had to kind of secretly drop him off, because that was not legal for us to have him on the bus, but it also wasn't legal for an East German to get on an American bus driving around the East. But I firmly believe that if he hadn't had ties to East Berlin, we could have laid him on the floor and drove out of East Berlin with him, and he would have been very happy. Yeah.
Did you ever witness any Bridge of Spies stuff, like people getting shot trying to get over the wall?
No.
Or anything like that?
That stuff was pretty much done when we were there. There were still people crossing in little, but no one was shot that I'm aware of. But I crossed the Bridge of Spies. That was at Potsdam, and I got to go work at the American Liaison Mission once in Potsdam. So I got to actually drive across that bridge.
Okay, so did you stay in the reserve for a long time after that?
Till 95, I want to say. Another 10 years.
Were you activated?
Once, yes.
Tell us about that.
Desert Storm, then it was called Desert Shield. It wasn't called Desert Storm until we actually pushed off on the invasion. But we went, the 84th Division went to Fort McCoy to run ranges and training for all the units that were deploying to Southwest Asia. They rolled us out, but you got to see people come in, units, they all came in as whole units. They would train, and you'd see them at the club on Saturday or Friday or Saturday night, the same people you had out on the ranges with you, and then poof, they were gone. They were on a big bird, and they were out of here. And then the next group came in, and they'd be gone. And so it was a little weird. You'd see these people at the PX loading up with stuff, and then 2 days later, they were off to the war zone. Kind of different, And you can have your regrets about that. Based on my conversations with people who were there, I can't say I'm not happy. I'm okay with not having to go over there, because it was typical. It was 99% total boredom and dealing with the temperatures and everything else, and then for some of them it was, that 1% that hit combat or had missiles coming in. I mean, look over in New Berlin, we lost someone when one of the Scud missiles landed in American compound. So I'm okay with not having to go there. I did what they asked me to do, and I'm good with that. They took me out on the tanks a few times, and it's like, this is a blast. So.
Was that when you signed up for the reserves? You did that?
Yes,
I gotcha.
right.
Okay.
So it's 2 years, 2.5, 3 years of cook, and then I was armor the rest of the time.
Quite a wide variety of experience.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
That's awesome, man. Great job.
I mean, when you're out in like Wildflick in Germany, where we go to on maneuvers, we were part of the 4-deuce mortar team, and they had 4.2-inch mortar in the back of basically a 113. That's a common vehicle, but they had a different name for it. But so you got tracked vehicle. They take us out and shoot mortars. Hey, you want to go out and shoot mortars? Sure. Meet us here at 6 o'clock. We go out, ride around with them until 2, 3 in the morning. Then get up wouldn't even sleep. We just go start getting breakfast ready. So you had long days, but you got to go out and fire mortars or fire machine guns, whatever they were doing that day. If you wanted to go along, you were welcome. And so I always said yes. It was fun.